Alright, hello everyone, I'm Zelo, and welcome to my Doom 64 The Unmaking speedrun on the Watch Me Die Max category. This was done on March 7th of 2026, and clocks in at 2:15:32 for time. I want to quickly talk about just the specifics of this level before we get into any kind of history or anything. So here in Old Dog, New Tricks, this has a secret exit just like Staging Area in the base game. Where all the barrels must be destroyed in order for the secret exit to open up. Now, unlike Staging Area, once you unlock the exit, it is permanently open. It's not a timed activation like it is in base Doom 64. So, thankfully, we can get these early on and then get the ones near the beginning of the level where the normal exit is, and then we can come back to the secret exit. So, just want to point that out. But this level is really tricky to start with because we have a lot of Berserk use. We have a lot of Berserk use in this level and several levels in episode 1, just because we don't really have ammo to work with. We don't get a shotgun until later in this level, and ammo is very limited. And the pistol just does not do a lot for imps, so there is a lot of just being able to fight with the fist and pray that you get good enough damage rolls. A lot of these barrels are also tucked in a lot of secret areas, so it's difficult to get to them. So, speaking of secret areas, so the Watch Me Die Max category is exactly what it sounds like. You are going to you play on Watch Me Die difficulty, which is equivalent to Ultra Violence in PC Doom, and get all the kills and secrets that you can. This is basically a 100% category, but there is one level that we cannot get 100% kills on, and we're also not going to see a results screen on this level because it's set up the same way as Staging Area is in base Doom 64, where there is no secret no results screen on the secret exit. So we just kind of do a manual check on this first level and just verify everything's dead, but it's pretty easy to get everything here. So we're at the normal exit now. Just kind of finished clipping off a few enemies and punching this last barrel right here. It's very important to note that you want to punch the barrels away from you. They're very easy to blow up in your face if you try and punch them against a wall, so... But that's the end of Old Dog, New Tricks, and we're going to the first level that we don't see in the speed category. We're actually going into the docking bay. Anybody who's played Heretic might recognize this map. So it's a pretty faithful recreation of the first map in Heretic in the Doom 64 tech-based style. This also has a lot of really scary Berserk use right here, because we get introduced to Pinkies. We actually are going to have to fight some Hell Knights as well. And health is a little scarce overall. Like, these first two levels are honestly some of the most difficult in the entire run, and that's a scary way to start off a run that's over 2 hours. So, some pistol use still gets used here, just because zombie men can absolutely gang up on you, and you can get shot at from every angle. So, in areas with large amounts of zombie men, I pistol them out. So, health was low here, so we grabbed this health pack early. Normally, I get that later, but like I said, the randomness in this level with how dangerous it is, you gotta do what you can do to stay alive, because I reset enough on this level. So, punching the Hell Knights, we kind of do like a circle strafe over and over, just to bait the fireball. Thankfully, that fireball did not do a whole lot of damage. But the circle strafe is the best way to deal with them if they're not already distracted by something else. If you get lucky, you might get a pinky or something to distract them. They try and attack them, and then you can just punch them in the back while they're distracted. Enemies in this area grouped up pretty well to where I could just take them down all at roughly the same time, and then we deal with the Hell Knight last once I have room to move. Secrets in this level are a little weird. There's these little alcoves that you just kind of need to put your foot in. So there's 2 of those. And then we have to get a couple more secrets at the end. I think it's just one more secret at the end, actually. Because we already got the green armor at the beginning. But you can tell, like, I haven't, like, really picked up shotgun ammo. There's no shotgun ammo in this level. So pretty much whatever I come in with is what I get. And I save 2 shots specifically for the imps on the other side of this window after dealing with these enemies in the little corridor. So I thankfully had 3. Because pistoling them out is very slow. So we need to get the remaining secrets here. So we hit that switch that's on the far wall. This opens up the corridor that would have, like, gauntlets of the Necromancer in Heretic. So there's a hidden switch in here that we need to activate. And you can hit this switch on the wall now just barely from the stairs. So turning auto run off is a good way to get yourself positioned. So otherwise you have to go up, drop down onto a ledge, and then fire from there. It's easier to just do it from the stairs. So we go into this last corridor, grab the UnMaker. Cell weapons are really good in this category, especially the UnMaker. We actually won't be seeing the plasma at all. And we won't be seeing much BFG use. It's mostly going to be UnMaker use. So there's our 100 and 100 for the level for kills and secrets. So you're going to be seeing that on every level coming up except for Ghost Stories, which I will talk about when we get there. So here are Manic Marines. This is also still a very random level. This is probably even more random than it is in Speed because we need to actually kill stuff. And we actually need the Marines to do a lot of that for us because we don't have enough like fast ammo to deal with them. Unfortunately, I missed the elevator cycle here, so activate it again. So a little bit of a time loss there. That change right there with the slime pit, if you haven't seen my previous Speed video, that slime pit is exclusive to later versions of the UnMaking, starting with 2.8. We're playing on 2.10 right here. So you can't just try and sneak by the pinkies, but this is max anyway, so we need to kill them. So, like I said, a lot of randomness in getting the Marines to cooperate. They like to target stuff that's not you, as long as you're not too close to them. But if you start shooting them, that's when they start targeting you. So there's a secret switch all the way on the other side of the wall that I hit, and then we hit the switch that normally lets us get out. Unfortunately, I missed this jump right here, so I had to go back around. That's kind of a frustrating jump to miss, unfortunately, because it's not super difficult. But we just kind of go on. So we activate the closet with the Marines here and let them deal with the pinkies while we're grabbing the secret soul sphere. That's what that switch on the far side of the wall did. So we let the Marines do most of the work here. And then we clean them up with the laser. I don't know where that laser was aiming. It did not want to cooperate. So 20 shells may seem like a lot, but there's still a whole lot of stuff left to kill in this level, so I was very concerned I was going to run out of ammo early on. So where possible in this early episode, we try and push barrels towards enemies, get them to explode a little bit faster. Especially if you can do them on pinkies, because pinkies have a lot of health. They have 150 health still, I think. So any kind of explosives are really nice for them. So we fire the pistol here once the door is open. That aggroes enemies to start walking toward us. And then that's when we can let loose the Marines. So this is an extremely random section. We have to pay attention to where the shotgunners go because we want to pick up their shotguns because there's not a lot of ammo to work with as far as shells are concerned. So we pick up what we can. There's supposed to be like 2 on each side, but it's hard to keep track of where everything is. So I just kind of wing it. Thankfully, we were able to pick up, I think, 3 of the 4 shotguns. But the Marines also kind of... They either fired on each other, they love to do that, or they just didn't finish the job and were getting destroyed by imps. So, had to do a little bit of cleanup here. And had to also remember to get that secret in the corner while all the chaos was going on. So, it's a rough level. You can save like 20+ seconds on that. So, it's definitely one of the levels that went the least smooth. And Hex Complex right here, this is really important for the max category since every wave despawns once you touch the item that you need to pick up to trigger the next transition. We need to kill everything before that happens. So I line things up in a very specific way to make sure we don't miss anything and we make sure we've got everything dead before we trigger the next transition, because otherwise you're screwed out of 100% kills and there's nothing you could do about that. And that's kind of the case with several parts of this WAD where you're going to have to make sure you don't accidentally miss a transition that would stop you from getting 100% kills. Okay, so we've got our Berserk, so we're going to be relying on that a little bit more because there are several pinkies. Just kind of snipe out the zombie men. I think this is still one of the conceptually coolest levels, and you still have quite a bit of work to do. This was a difficult level to route because you do get a chain gun, and that chain gun is extremely useful. It's considered a secret anyways, or at least the area around it. But the chain gun itself is really good for the last couple of spots, and we want the chain gun going into Warehouse Shuffle anyways. So I knew I was a little low on ammo, so punched out a couple more enemies before switching over. Okay, like I said, the ammo management is just very tight in the early game. So we're gonna rush towards the chain gun next, so that'll be our first secret to grab. I think it's the only two, yeah, because in version 2.10, starting from 2.8 actually, the secret hidden shotgun shells box is removed and no longer considered a secret. So there's only 2 secrets on this level now. It's just the chain gun and the hidden room with the rad suit. Make sure we get rid of everything here. That imp did not want to play ball. So here's where the chain gun comes in useful, because we have a bunch of enemies that we need to snipe. So we kind of just take the high ground, snipe out the stuff that we can't get later. And then we're actually going to snipe a couple of enemies that are on the ground, which is difficult to get the game to auto-target, because the game doesn't let you look up and down normally. Like, there's no up and down look movement in Doom 64 Remaster or the original. So you kind of have to let the auto-aim do the work for you and pray that enemies are in a good spot that will actually let you do that. So once they're dead, we'll clean up the remaining enemies on this side. And then we pick up the Mega Armor, and that's going to trigger the last transition here. So there's a whole... The important thing to note about this level is that enemies no longer just spawn in. They actually come in from monster closets. So this means that we're not going to be able to stop enemies from spawning in, because if you manage to block enemies from spawning at all, then they don't count towards the max total for the kill counter. And that's actually good, because that's one less thing that you need to kill. So you can still get 100%. But unfortunately, since everything now comes from monster closets, we do need to kill everything. And this means that we want to have enemies spawn as often as possible. So we have to be very careful not to block the teleport spot for these pinkies and soldiers that show up. Because otherwise, we're stopping them from coming in, and we're going to have to wait more time. Because we're on a time script right now. There's still a lot of time scripts. The later versions of the UnMaking did reduce a lot of the time scripts, or got rid of them entirely. But this is one of the ones where we do still need to wait for the exit to get a path to. That punch did not cooperate. I will say, like, the hitbox on the punch is still one of the most awkward things to do with this game. And learning how to safely punch enemies to death is a struggle. Now, I was very lucky. I actually had everything killed ahead of time. Usually a shotgunner shows up late, but it looked like it was good, so I went ahead and thankfully we got our 100 here. Alright, so Warehouse Shuffle here is a lot more involved than it is in the speed category. Normally you would just do 2 loops of the elevator here, and you'd be able to get to the normal exit, but we need to take a secret exit in this level. And there's quite a few secrets here, so I take a very specific route to make sure, A, we don't miss any enemies, not just for 100% completion, but B, also because they love to wander off and make life miserable. And they can absolutely block you if I haven't already dealt with them. So we're going to activate a few switches early on like we would in Speed right here. So 2201 is the order here. But we're also going to bring this one down and get the Berserk Secret early. So we bring it down all the way, and then one push lets us get into the Berserk Secret from here. So this is a good health refill. Just lets us not have to deal with stuff as far as health is concerned. Because this is a really easy level to die in if you don't take that early. Alright, so we bring the elevator to the right spot again. And then we're going to do everything up to the normal exit, and we'll do the secret exploring, while still making sure we get rid of enemies. And the difficult part about doing this level ins max is that now we're going to actually have to kill the cacodemons that spawn. There's no getting around that this time. So there's a lot of improv depending on where they start floating towards, and I try and deal with them while I'm still activating these elevators the second time. So we need to do 5, 3, 5, and 1 now, in that order. So if I see the cacos are nearby, I will go and punch them out, because that's definitely the most damage efficient way to do it. But these cacos love to play ball and just constantly try and attack you through your punches, so it's very easy to still die on them. So we activate the switches, we get the hidden green armor right here that's on the ledge. That counts as a secret. And there are 2 specters in this area. I couldn't hear the second one. I was wondering where he went, so I figured we could probably get it later, because we do have to fall down to the ground one more time. So now we're going to start the sequence to get all the remaining secrets, so you can hear the specter now. There's a nice lineup right here with the chain gun. If you line up in the corner with the chain gun and point the right blade towards the the purple light, that you can dive right into this secret area without any issues. So that gets us the rocket launcher, which is very useful. And then we take this secret entrance into the blue key, which we need to get into the next secret. So we know the other specter's still here. Chainsaw him out. Chainsaw is honestly really good, where you can use it in episode 1. Just does a lot of damage really quickly, much better than its PC Doom counterpart. And it's good at just stun locking stuff. So this gap right here, this jump is deceptively hard to actually get in between. So I spent some time getting the lineup right. It's worth it because falling down sucks. So this brings us to the yellow key and the mega armor, and with the yellow key we can actually get to the secret exit with one last Cacodemon. So this was honestly the best this level has ever gone, and even in practice, I don't think it's ever gone this well. Because the Cacodemons love to float around, so it's hard to punch them out, so you're usually just shooting them for forever. And they cooperated very well. Alright, into remote control, this is our first main secret level, like excluding Docking Bay. This is pretty easy to do in 2.10. We just need to activate the switches as soon as possible to raise these ledges. These are all just time scripts waiting for the switches to show up. It's really just making sure we don't die. We want to conserve mega armor where possible. So it's really difficult to actually move in this sector. You don't really get a lot of room. So we just try to eliminate stuff as soon as possible and just hit the switches as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I got a little bit more beat up than I would have liked, so really would have liked to keep more mega armor going to the next level. So right here, we hit the invisibility trigger to make sure we can spawn the invisibility. Because that makes it so much less likely for the Hell Knight and the remaining enemies to hit us. And then we just take some time just picking up any remaining pickups. Because if you don't have invisibility for that Arachnotron right there, he's just going to snipe you to death, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. But the killing sequence went well. Like, well enough anyways. So all that's left to do is go towards the exit, which will trigger the secret switches that we need in order to get the remaining secrets and the demon key. This first switch, I could not get the lineup, unfortunately. I was really struggling to hit this one. So that's definitely the hardest one for me to hit for whatever reason. So we get these 2 switches. A new switch opens up near the main area here. And then once you do that, now we can go back to that wall that opened, and a new teleporter is active. And there's one more switch to get right on here on the left. So that gets us our only demon key for this episode. So there's 1 demon key in this category for this episode. There's 2 demon keys in the next episode, which is levels 9 through 16. And then the final episode we'll be able to get 3. Alright, so ghost stories right here. We have our little bit of downtime while we're waiting for this sequence to go. Unfortunately, not only did I not get the fast cycle to where I can skip a poison tick during this sequence, I end up losing too much health and armor, and I lost so much armor that I have to pick up the green armor coming up, which is a downgrade. Those of you not familiar with the armor mechanics in Doom, so green armor gives you 100 points and reduces damage by 1/3. Blue armor, the mega armor, gives you 200 points and reduces damage by 1/2. So you want to have mega armor protection where possible. And unfortunately, due to the layout of the level, I'm forced to pick up a green armor by design. And that's going to override my better protection from my mega armor. So the Ghost Monster's gimmick here makes it so that enemies quickly appear and then disappear. Which is a cool gimmick, but this also means that this is the only level that we can't get 100% kills in. So the max is, depending on what spawns, you can get like 87 or 88. 89 is the max for sure. 89% is the max in what I shoot for. Just making sure that you don't block anything. So just to make things simple in terms of defining like a rule set, I just decided it would just be easier to just always get the 89% kills and not have to be like, well, 88's close, isn't it? That's close enough. I just figured just get the 89%. And this works out a little bit later because I can get an early berserk by visiting the room that I'm going to in a bit. But first we have to get this very annoying secret here. This is aggravating to jump into there. So getting into that tunnel is pretty difficult, and then you have to make a very tight jump to the plasma, so I set it up. That's 2 secrets. Picking up this shotgun makes some enemies spawn. I also was accidentally hitting the console key. Thankfully that doesn't matter for the run. It's just that the console key is very close to some of my other keys. So, a little silly that happened, but it doesn't affect anything. We're gonna get this blue key right here. The ghost Kako is gonna chase us for a while, but we're gonna get out of here before that's a problem. So we go back in here, we clear out the lost soul and the imps, and then we're just gonna chainsaw everything else that's in here. Now these imps managed to get in here, and that's pretty rare for that to happen, but thankfully we were able to catch them early. Yeah, chainsaw here just honestly a very damage efficient weapon, and keeps everything off your back as long as you keep hitting them. So now we switch over to chain gun, clear out the remaining lost souls and imps. Health is thankfully not a concern because the next level starts with the Megasphere. So we just need to make sure that we have our 89% kills and 100% secrets. This is the only level where we're not going to see 100 and 100, and that's exactly what we got here. So starting packing plant here, it does have the second exit switch that you could use to exit the level early, but since we're playing max, we're going to have to kill everything. So we're just going to have to wait this one out. So we did grab a backpack and remote control, which is one of the big benefits of playing max, which is doubling our ammo capacity for the rest of the episode. So that lets us actually keep all of the rockets that are in this room, because there are like 70-something rockets in the room. There's plenty, and we can use some of them here and several of them in the next 2 levels. But otherwise, this is just kind of an endurance test. The chainsaw helps with conserving ammo because we do want bullets and such for later. And it's also just really good to keep enemies off your back without getting trapped. I do have to thank Squibber for making the monster closets a little bit more friendly. Especially the Hell Knights at the very end of the level. They would not like to cooperate and would take a long time to spawn at times. But thankfully now, they don't take nearly as long to spawn usually. So big shout outs to Squibber for not only making this WAD, but also making all of the changes that made this run a lot easier to deal with. Because before 2.8 came out, I think this would have probably been like a 3.5 hour run. Or definitely no shorter than 3. But with all the changes made, it's cut down to the 2:15 that you see right here. Which is really nice. I was having a little bit of trouble getting that exit switch. Alright, so Deadman switch coming up right here. This is pretty similar to how it is in Speed. We're just going just slightly out of our way to get a few more secrets in places. Thankfully, not a whole lot else going on. We're gonna get our yellow key and super shotgun early again. They're just we need the yellow key anyways for progression, and just getting the super shotgun early is really nice anyways because that's a huge source of damage, being equivalent to a rocket shot at point blank range. So we're gonna get this hidden invulnerability right here. That's in the lava pit. And we can actually use this in the prison right here, and we can just kind of face tank our rockets. And that's a big reason why we were able to carry in so many rockets from starting packing plant, because now we can just throw rockets pretty much everywhere. We have enough to use in this level and the next level. Like, you do get pushed back a bit by your own rockets, but the splash radius is just too good to pass up, especially while we have the effects of the invulnerability. So the prison's otherwise pretty much the same, aside from clearing those 2 extra rooms and making sure you don't miss stuff in the shower area, because I've definitely missed stuff in the shower. Alright, the chapel area right here, since it's on a time script from 2.8 onwards, we just want to activate the script as soon as possible. Usually I like getting enemies to infight just because it's safer. But they didn't want to infight, and I was kind of running out of room, so we just elected to use a few extra rockets here. I figured we were pretty good on it. But yeah, this chapel will not open for a while. It's just time-based now. We get this hidden secret right here. Just jump to the back. The area around the chainsaw is the secret. Missed that rocket pack, unfortunately, but thankfully it didn't seem to matter. I had plenty of rockets still. This area is pretty much the same as it is in Speed. We just grab the Soul Sphere right there for the health refill, and just very carefully deal with the Mancubi in the cages. And then we have the Arachnotron ambush, that's the same, but I've refined the movement a little bit to where they'll move a little bit more consistently. So at least we won't have to trace them down. I think there's 8 of them, if I remember right. And this part went really well. So we need to detour a little bit to kill a few extra enemies that are off the beaten path. So we're gonna just pick up some stuff and clear out a few extra things while picking up some extra rockets on the way. So I do have a 1-key Unmaker right now, so the demon keys power up your Unmaker. Depending on how many keys you have, you get faster fire rates and more lasers as you get 2 or more. So another detour right here, so we gotta get the invulnerability. That counts as a secret. And then we're also gonna grab the hidden blue key that's back here in the back of this warehouse. We also do need to pick up a secret backpack right here, which is good anyways because that provides us with extra cells. Make sure all these pinkies are dead. So time sequence right here is we're waiting for the lost souls, just like we would in Speed. But on the final wave, we're going to have the Unmaker. We have enough Unmaker ammo to carry us through this level, and we're not going to be using the Unmaker in the next level anyways, so it's good to find... There's some good uses for it here, to be able to just quickly get rid of stuff and be able to leave more efficiently. And also stop lost souls from roaming around, because they love to roam around, so... Hidden switch right here, we can get the computer map area. Thankfully, the only secret there is just a sector, and we just have to step inside. So make sure those enemies in that bunker are good. So we save right here, because this tower, I've had a couple of soft locks in it for whatever reason. If the tower keeps rising to the top, you are soft locked, because the exit doors will not open when you get out. So... or when you try and leave, I should say. So, I saved just in case that happens. Thankfully, it didn't happen here. But Squib and I don't know what causes that. So, if anybody has that happen to them and wants to take a look, feel free to let us know. Thankfully, we've gotten all the secrets in the level at this point. That blue key, opening the blue door area with the extra Unmaker and Mega Armor. That was the last secret for the level. So, the rest pretty much plays out the same as Speed, but just with a bunch more rockets in our inventory, which is really nice. So just like in Speed, we blocked one Cacodemon from spawning. The hitbox for the Cacodemons is so big that you can block them from spawning even when they're all just standing next to the pillar. And then we just got rid of those 2 Spectres. We blocked another Spectre from showing up, also spawning on that first pillar. So that leaves just this last tower, and this is where the Unmaker is handy here, because firing rockets, the rockets have a tendency to push the enemies away here, and the Unmaker's fast enough to where that's usually not going to be a problem. Like, it is kind of still an aggravating section, but thankfully they don't get pushed too far away. Almost pulled out the rocket launcher on my own butt and would have blasted myself to death, but was able to recognize it and switch to the chain gun in time. Yeah, that's all the cell ammo for the episode. We just burn it all there, make it easy. Alright, and coming into the Unabsolution right here, the last level of episode 1, we do need to get one secret, but it's very easy to get at the end. There is a strat improvement compared to my speed run. So if you manage to stand right here in this spot, most of the missiles that get fired from the Mother Demon right here, they usually just hit the wall next to you when they're either circling around or on the way. So there is a little bit of risk, but usually this is pretty consistent. It's a lot better than the dodge strats I was using. So once the Mother Demon dies, you can get the Megaspheres in an easy way right there. The intended way is to boost up using the flame attack, but once you kill the Mother Demon, you can just go off those ledges and there's secret teleporters that take you there, so it's just a lot easier to just do it that way. So that's the end of episode 1. At the end of episodes 1 and 2, you have death exits, and there's actually one in episode 3 that we'll actually skip in this category. But we'll talk about that when we get there. So we're back to a pistol start right here as we start Dig Your Own Grave. And this is pretty much the exact same as it is in Speed because I was already maxing this level out. Thankfully, the ammo conservation is not as tight in this level. Because we're getting more ammo for the next level due to grabbing extra secrets and such, we have more room to miss or just kind of clean up with the shotgun in the first few waves. So it's just a nice convenience. But we still do need to kind of go around the whole room, make sure we're not missing anything as far as ammo is concerned or anything extra. And soldiers move around really, really slowly, so we want to deal with them immediately. Because the pinkies are pretty fast. They definitely are among the more fast monsters in the game. So I make sure I've got all the ammo I need. That invisibility on the right is my target to where I want to stand, because that's where I'm going to start the next wave. Just whenever you kill all the enemies in a wave, the next transition starts. So this is the level where the only thing you can get is 100% kills. So the only thing variable here is the secrets as far as the category is concerned, and all the secrets are useful anyways, so there's no reason to skip any of those. So we're going to get the amplifier. The goggles are just really nice to be able to see stuff for the rest of the level. And then we will do a little bit of ammo cleanup right here. And once we get here, we're going to pick up the last shells and bullets, and these bullets are our marker for the next transition. That's going to be the last transition. So normally, just like in Speed, we're going to skip to the rocket launcher secret. Normally you're supposed to hit a button, but that's difficult to do. So we're just gonna run right into that alcove. So that allows us to just run right in as the floor is transitioning down. We can grab the rocket launcher and just leave. We do fire the chain gun once to aggro the Lost Souls and other enemies, because we want the Lost Souls to come out, and we want these specters to get hit by the cacodemons so that they get aggroed on them. So the bite attack that the specters have can hit cacodemons even from all the way below. This game is really weird about height. It's just kind of a Doom Engine quirk in general, to where some things have infinite height, or some properties have infinite height. Melee attacks will hit at any height, and that includes melee attacks from enemies towards other enemies. So we get a nice set of infights right here between the cacodemons and the specters that are running around, and they just kind of deal with them best we can. And since we have a little bit of extra shotgun ammo, we can also jump in on the fun and just shotgun some of the more annoying cacodemons that don't want to come down or start some infighting. Now this was really lucky right here, because almost all the cacodemons died really quickly, and all the specters decided to play nice and stay in the middle area too, so I didn't have to chase anything down. So this was a really good Dig Your Own Grave. Yeah, 3:16 in-game time is really good. Alright, so blast processing. We're going to start it pretty much the same as Speed, but we are going to get a few more secrets, which are quite nice. And I think actually I want to keep one of those for the Speed category when I go back to that, because getting a free Soul Sphere is actually quite nice. So we need to lure these rockets over to the cacodemons, because we just don't have enough to do all of them. We could probably kill this one using just the shotgun, but the first three are fine to do. It doesn't take too much time to lure the rockets over. Luring to this one over there takes way too long though, so it's much more efficient to just use the bullets I've saved up and just snipe it from the window. So we'll pick up that Soul Sphere right there. That's a secret. There's another secret right here with this Mega Armor. I thought I fell off the ledge at first, so I was a little scared. Yeah, it's nice to just fill up to max health and armor, which is really good for the final arena here. So like in my recent speedruns, we're actually doing the obstacle course second. We do have to pick up one secret inside the obstacle course. It's after this third set of barrels right here. There's just an alcove on the left. And then the rest of the obstacle course is pretty much the same. And this went really well. It's difficult to get around these barrels a lot of the time, because they have deceptive hitboxes and you tend to get stuck like I did there. But if you're lucky, like this, then this set of barrels won't be exploding. You can just run right past. So a really good obstacle course overall. So be very careful to pick up the key because it's easy to skip that, and then we're going to grab the Berserk and the alcove right here. So this puts us right by the red key arena. And this is why we pick up the Berserk second and do this later. Because now we can just punch out these imps instead of having to use ammo or such. Because ammo is still a little bit limited. We'd want to keep our shotgun shells for a little bit later. And we have all the health and armor that we picked up from the secrets. So it's easy to just do a bunch of cleanup while standing in the slime pit. So we explode the barrels there just to get a little bit of extra damage. Makes it more consistent to deal with the imps. I was starting to get a little scared with health, so I started to back off. And then just cleaned up the rest with the shotgun. Not much slower that way, thankfully. So once we have all 3 keys, we just need to get to the ending part. And there is one more secret to grab, which will refill our shells. So we just carefully strafe run across the pillars. I didn't really talk about strafe running. Anybody who's played Doom or Doom 64, really just like old FPSs in general, probably knows about strafe running, but I'll explain it here. Strafe running is where you just move in two vectors or more at the same time, like, because that can apply to 3 vectors if you're playing something like Descent. And those movement vectors are added together. So you run 28% faster in Doom 64 if you're doing that. It's just faster movement all around. Anyways, this last wave goes down pretty quickly. The intended way is to drag a whole bunch of explosive missiles around, but that's slow. So we use the rockets that we saved up from the last level, and along with some shotgun ammo and some punches, we clean up everything pretty quick. So this is a very solid blast processing. Because it's very easy for things to spiral in that level. But we got out smoothly, had a few shells left over as we go into Crosswind Crossfire here. This level is very much the same as it is in Speed for the most part. There's just one extra secret that we have to grab compared to how we normally do it. Because a lot of these secrets are really useful anyways in Speed, so I already picked them up. So we just need to make sure we don't run out of shells. And we did save just a few bullets. Having a few bullets does help in case the cacodemons in these spots don't like to move up. You can at least snipe them away. So Super Shotgun, again, doing just a ton of damage equivalent to a rocket shot at point blank range. And then once we get rid of the close cacodemons, we can focus on the farther ones using SSG or whatever else we've got. It's really nice also if you can get the cacodemons and the Hell Knights to infight, but it doesn't happen like too often, so I try not to worry too much about it. Like, the SSG really just handles most of the work here. We get rid of that Caco a little bit ahead of time because he loves to wander off and make things miserable. We don't want that. So I still love this gimmick for this level. I think this is one of the most clever gimmicks in the WAD. Especially since the weapons that you want to use most in this area, they have a little bit of knockback and push you backwards whenever you fire them. So you have to constantly reposition yourself to make sure you don't fall off the edges while you're being pincer attacked. So we're gonna leave these Hell Knights here because we want to do some infighting with them. So we'll deal with them a little bit later. So while the torch secret is being activated, lighting the torch with any of your guns brings the soul sphere down, and that counts as a secret. So we just fill up on everything, and then do another Hell Knight wave right here. So the 2 Hell Knights that we left behind, they should be behind us now. And they like to get hit by the other cacodemons on the other side, and usually do some of the work for us, which is nice. But thankfully, that wave died really fast. That's probably the fastest I've ever had that happen in practice. So a little bit more splash damage against the Mancubi to clear up with rockets. We're gonna make those Hell Knights come out. It's a good opportunity for more splash damage, so whenever you can take advantage of rocket splash damage, you definitely want to go for it. So now we pick up the last secret. This alcove opens at some point, we can get the radiation shield, which we don't really need. Pretty much if you fall into the pit, you're in trouble anyways, because unless you have enemies only on one side remaining in the final wave, the red suit's not going to be doing much for you. So this is the scariest part of the level by far, where the ledge is pretty thin, and it's easy for whatever weapons you're firing to knock you back, so I'm constantly making micro adjustments while reloading the super shotgun. So we get a round of pinkies, we get a round of knights, and then we have arachnotrons show up. So we deal with the one that's on one side, and this was a freaking ninja arachnotron. I can't believe he dodged like 3 rockets in a row. Arachnotron hitboxes are really weird because they're rectangular, so it's very easy to miss them despite looking like you're hitting their sprites. So now we just deal with the remaining barren waves that spawn at the very end. I think I actually missed a rocket box. No, I got the rocket box that was there. I might have actually picked everything up. The rockets are just really invaluable in this episode. So we just want to just take advantage of the splash damage where we can and just have fast group kills. Looks like I didn't miss anything. So we pick up that. We pick up as many shells as we can too. Shell use is very important in the next level in Walled Garden. So this is one of the most changed levels in the max category, because in speed we would just go to the very first available normal exit because there's like 3 of them, and then we'd leave in about 30 seconds. That's not the case here. We have a ton of secrets we need to grab. This giant puzzle box has something like 12 or 13 secrets to grab, and it also has a secret exit. So it's a very involved level. It's several minutes longer, and it's one of the levels I really appreciate the most just because the routing it just took a long time to plan some of the stuff. So we're going to run off this ledge at a very specific angle. You want to do that from the side. If you run off the ledge in the middle, you actually get blocked by a tree. So that's why we set that up to where we run off the side of that ledge. Now, shotgun ammo is always a concern here, so I go out of my way to make sure we have enough shotgun ammo. And we want to kill stuff in this area anyways. Make sure we're not leaving anything behind. Unfortunately, I tried to compensate for bullet count by grabbing these extra bullets, but I ended up missing a cycle in the elevator, so there's lots of little mistakes like those here. So we're going to hit these switches right here for later. The in-game maps that are at each little switch fortress do update in real time, so you can kind of plan out where you need to go, but I've got all the switch positions memorized for what I need to flip in order to progress to each area. So it's possible to actually skip this wave doing a line def skip. If you run past a line def fast enough, you can be on one side of a line def on one frame, and then be on the other side of the line def on the other frame, on the next frame, without actually touching the line def, and so you never spawn anything. Unfortunately, I don't have a consistent lineup for skipping that wave, so it's just something I kind of pray for, and you would have to get it twice anyways. So one more switch fortress coming up right here. We're going to take a very specific movement path to kind of group the Hell Knights at the top of this. Enemies move very randomly, but they generally try and move towards your current position, so you can use that to your advantage. So we're going to open up this area to the left here and make a jump over. I got blocked a little bit by a tree on the ground. I'm very thankful I didn't fall into the moat, because that would have been a very long detour to get back. So we'll deal with those Hell Knights on the way back. We do need to hit this switch up, so we open these doors. This secret right here is technically optional. So just like the kills, if a secret that needs to be spawned in doesn't get spawned, then you technically don't need to grab it and you can still get 100% secrets. But having the extra 40 cells is useful, and we have to go to that area anyways to activate the 2 switches at the control room. So it's worth it to just grab it there. Just spawn the Unmaker and then grab the extra 40 cells. So we're going to activate the final switches here. I do get a little lost for a second. And then I realize I need to go back this way instead. So this will take us to the final areas here. So I actually do a little bit of a risky strat coming up as we're about to grab... what item is here? Is it the key? It's the blue key. Alright, so this blue key right here, once you spawn that, a bunch of stuff spawns in. I decided to play the risky strat since I had some extra rockets and do a couple of rockets on the pain elemental, which is extremely risky because usually it just shoots Lost Souls instantly your current position and you rocket yourself to death. But thankfully that didn't happen there. So with the blue key we can open the corridor to the secret exit. We just grab the extra items and we're out of there. So this could have gone a little bit better, but it was not nearly as bad as my last run that did this. I'm okay with that. So this takes us to the next secret level, No Going Back, which is I think my favorite secret level. So Scuba specifically changed the WAD to where you could not permanently miss secrets, except in this level. Just like the title implies, you cannot go back. The moment you pass certain line depths, the floor raises permanently, and that can crush you to death. But that's also critical because that can also crush other enemies to death. So we took advantage of that at the very beginning there to kill a whole bunch of enemies that we don't need to kill manually. We're gonna try and block as many pinkies as we can. Or I think is it pinkies? I don't know. We killed stuff. I think it's cacodemons here. This secret is a pain because you need to activate the line depth and then you need to run back onto the ledge. It's very tight. You get 2 chances at that, but we want to get it on the first chance because if you do it the second time, enemies spawn earlier than we want. So once we get the demon key out of that secret, there's an unmaker behind you, and that's the second secret, and that's the only 2 in this level. So we just pick up the remaining rockets and clear up the enemies. Now, there are a bunch of rockets at the end of this corridor that we want to pick up here. And there's also a mother demon that spawns. So the original route that I had for this level would use several of those rockets to deal with the mother demon and safely get everything else. But I found that with some very careful movement, you can slip right by this mother demon. The missiles will always hit the wall, so you don't have to worry about those. You just kind of zigzag right past the mother demon and just have her get crushed against the wall. Way more efficient, and we can keep all of these rockets for the remainder of the episode, which is really good, taking like 85 plus into the next level. Alright, and that brings us into when hell freezes over, and this is our big auto-scroller moment still. Nothing changes too much in the max category here. We will have to actually kill everything, so that is the scary part because things can wander off. And there is one more secret that we are going to pick up in the main room. All 3 secrets are in the main room, thankfully, so they're at least easy to get. But otherwise, this is just a giant auto-scroller. But thankfully, since we have the backpack from earlier in the episode, this is significantly easier to deal with, because normally for bullets, shells, and rockets, you'd be capped at 200, 50, and 50. With the backpack, that's doubled now, and we have 400, 100, 100. This actually means that when we need to refill on ammo during the big fight, we can take less trips. We can stay in the middle of the area longer and stay in control of the fight, because we need to kill everything. Everything needs to die, not just for our safety, but because the category requires it. So, the longer we can stay in the middle and not have to go running around for ammo, that's more time that we can use to deal with enemies. And thankfully, we can do a few easy spawn blocks. I actually missed spawn blocking that pinky right there, but it's not a big deal. But the one that we want to spawn block is actually right here. We spawn block a cacodemon from showing up, just makes it a little bit easier. And we've already dealt with pretty much everything else aside from the 2 pinkies right here, so we can leave right after that. So I didn't get to talk about the gimmick at this level yet, but as you can probably guess from the title, When Hell Freezes Over, anytime you are not in a lighted space, the sectors are all poison sectors, and you're constantly taking damage in the cold. So we have to work fast into areas. So we hit the switch on the wall over by the shotgun shell outpost. That gets us a secret. Then we hit the switch that was by the soul spheres. That activates the megasphere secret. And then we came over to here, and we dropped down onto the berserk secret by all this chain gun ammo. So that's our 3 secrets, and now all we're going to have to do is just clear out enemies. Normally in speed, I would go to the downstairs area, pick up a few extra rockets there because I wouldn't be filled out. I would pick them up there and then make a second trip later. But since I'm already almost capped on rockets now, and I plan to use several rockets in this level, there's no reason to take a trip downstairs, so I can just stay in the middle area. And thankfully, in this area, there's plenty to work with. You have 2 invulnerabilities that we're going to take. There's the 4 soul spheres that were over by the secret switch that activated the megasphere. There's a megasphere, like I said, we can grab. And there's also a green armor. So the plan here is to use my resources as needed, go refill on chain gun ammo and shotgun shells as needed. When I get down to close to 0 armor the first time, we'll grab the green armor and use that and soul spheres for a while. And then after that, once we start getting down to low health and armor again, we can grab the megasphere, we can get the 200 refill, And we can carry that into the next level, which would be very handy. But otherwise, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. This is going to be like another 5-ish minutes of fighting, so I'm going to turn my mic off for now, let my vocal cords rest. Y'all enjoy the carnage for a bit. If needed, you can skip ahead to later when we deal with the final waves, but otherwise, I'm just going to sit here with my mic off and let my vocal cords take a break. So I will be back in just a few short minutes. Alrighty, y'all, I'm back. Had a little bit of rest, feel a little bit better on my vocal cords, so we can continue talking, because we do want to talk about the end of this level a little bit. So this is close to the final waves of enemies here. The ending is just... The exit is just on a time script where the barrier around the exit is just not... It won't finish coming down for several minutes. So we've been mostly just taking this at our own pace. But the final waves of enemies include several pain elementals, which are quite deadly in 64, because if you try... they spawn 2 Lost Souls at a time. And if you try and block them with your body like you can in PC Doom, they explode in your face for rocket damage and usually kill you. And there's going to be 3 of them showing up. And also, because Doom 64's code is based on Doom, like, version 1.4 or something, if we go back from Doom 64 to PlayStation Doom to Jaguar Doom to Doom 1, that means Lost Souls actually count towards kills, because that was a change made in version 1.666. Unfortunately, that's not applicable here, which means any Lost Souls they spawn need to die, which is why we do this in a very specific way to make sure that we're not going to have a whole bunch of enemies spawn. So I also save 1 invulnerability for that reason, so I can pick it up, and just face tank rockets as needed. So this one was like way up there and did not want to cooperate. So we grabbed the other invulnerabilities. So there's one that's going to be at the top of the stairs roughly. And then another one that's going to show up on the other side of this room here. And he was being a pain, so I decided to finish him out with a little bit of laser. We don't want to use too much laser here. I kind of used more than I wanted because the laser's really needed for a level coming up a couple levels from now. But after we've cleared all of them out, we go down into the basement again. Into first time actually, because we didn't go here earlier. There are a ton of rockets that we can grab. So this is our huge rocket refill. We just kind of do a quick sweep as well just to make sure there's nothing else in the level. Because it's very easy for an imp or something to just get stuck around a corner. But thankfully, that didn't happen here, and we got our 100% in a nice 902. So, Cichlid Symmetry, really fun, but there's 2 patterns you can get in this level in later versions of the UnMaking. Thankfully, we got the good pattern, and that's easier to keep track of here. So, you kill the enemy that's different from the rest, and that smashes the other enemies to death and progresses the wave. So we have to get the secrets while we're doing that, so we did pick up some goggles. We hit a secret switch that takes us to the outside area, and then there's one other thing that we need to do. I accidentally aimed at the wrong enemy for just a second, but got myself back on track. So after we kill that Baron, this is the final transformation right here. We're going to go pick up the invulnerability that's in this little hidden corridor. And then we need to make sure, while we're activating these switches that make the exit available, we need to deal with several panel metals. There's a couple that spawn once you hit the switches. And I was having a lot of trouble finding this one. But thankfully, everything was at least playing ball as far as staying in the middle area. Nothing was wandering off. I had some extra rockets to burn, so I could have used them here, but I wasn't really sure how many I needed for the next level coming up. So, super shotgun it was. So, it's a very short level, thankfully. Not a problem. And now we go from one of the shortest levels to one of the longest levels with Mercurial minions. So this, in speed category, this is just a lot of empty running and just kind of dodging stuff. But because we need to kill everything and get all the secrets, we have a lot to deal with here. So the UnMaker with 2 demon keys that we picked up from the secret level and from Walled Garden, they're really useful. This is the max fire rate we can get for the UnMaker right here, shooting a laser once every 4 frames, and it's shooting 2 of them at a time since we have 2 keys, which is really good. So we use that to deal with the mancubi that are on the walls, because they love to just go around, and the wall is so tall, it's easy for your shots to get blocked by rockets. So this is a big reason why I want to have as much cell ammo going into this level. Because I would love to actually use that for BFG in some of the more cramped areas, but it's way too easy to just lose so much ammo and time on the mancubi that it's worth it to just laser them out. We'll talk a little bit more about the UnMaker later, but right now I was struggling to pick up power-ups in this section. This area is thankfully a time script, but I was just getting stuck on everything, so it's pretty funny. But we just make sure we get all the power-ups and just be ready for the ambush right here. Thankfully mostly just a bunch of weak enemies here and some useful Marines to help out here and there. They serve as good distractions, and they can kill some stuff. So it's worth leaving them alive long enough to let enemies target them. They can kill a few things off, and then you can clean up the rest. But that's a pretty big recurring theme of this level, because this is one of the largest levels in the entire WAD. To the point where it's very inconvenient. So thankfully, we only have to touch that sector to get credit for the secret. We don't actually have to go to where the Soul Sphere is. And I had so much health, I didn't need to actually pick it up. So we did this little skip. We will come back up this elevator later, but activating that wall early by doing the jump over the top of that wall means all the Marines are released instantly. They can start getting everything taken care of here. Unfortunately, the Marines also like to target each other, which is a big pain in the ass. So they do a little bit less work than I'd like them to here. But it's good to just get them out of the way, because otherwise you would have to hit the switch in the tower to make stuff show up. And then you'd have to deal with them all spread out. It's good to just let them loose immediately. And it actually even saves like a second just to do that little skip and activate everything early. There's still a lot of really awkward cleanup here, dealing with enemies. Like, the enemies are just really weirdly spaced to where rocket launcher is not going to do a whole lot of grouping. You just kind of have to just do what you can. But you also want rockets for later anyways. It's a weird level to balance and route out. So there's a hidden secret to the left right here. We just push that wall down. There's a nice unmaker for a little bit of a cell refill. I decided to deal with the bear now because I'm going to walk back to the spot in a second once I spawn everything here. So we're going to let the Marines loose in the area. We're going to let everything come more towards the central. And we'll just do a little bit more cleanup here. I would like to get more stuff on the way back from areas, but it's hard to get enemies to actually infight. It's hard to get them to infight to where they'll actually do anything. They tend to get lost if they're wandering around, so... It's definitely room for improvements in the future, but I just wanted to mostly play it safe in this first set of runs. So there's one remaining set of Mankibai up top, and then we have 3 alcoves with these Hell Knights. This is extremely scary because it's very easy to get blocked, not only by the Hell Knights, but also by Cacodemons that are up on the top areas. So we're going to park ourselves in here. We do need to hit a secret switch that's on the back of that pedestal right there, behind that pillar. So that activates the Mega Armor secret later. So we'll deal with that. But since we picked up a bunch of rockets, we're just going to be just face rocketing everything. This is one area where I'd like to use the BFG. It would be very risky to do so, because we would have to face tank our shots. But it would be very good. So let me explain how the BFG works real quick while we're doing the remaining cleanup. So the BFG works by firing a giant ball that does anywhere from 100 to 800 damage in 100 damage increments. And once that ball detonates, there's an additional source of damage from Doomguy's current position at the angle the ball was fired at. So once that all triggers, a bunch of invisible tracers fire from Doomguy in like a cone angle. And this does the majority of the BFG damage. So the strat for using that is to fire the ball directly at a target and then run up and give it a big hug. Or at a group of enemies. So that's how that works. We'll use it just a little bit later, but we won't be using the BFG much. Anyways, like I was saying earlier, this secret is very inconvenient to get. We had to go all the way back because we need the blue key. There's just nothing we can do about that. Thankfully, I caught this Marine wandering around, so I checked the back corridor just to make sure there's not another Marine wandering around. They love to do that. I've lost 100% kills due to that. But there's no getting around that, unfortunately, just because you have to get the blue key and you have to backtrack. There's just nothing we can do routing-wise. So I'm going to pick up more rockets here. This is a huge killing field right here. This would also be another good spot for BFG if I had the cells to spare, but cells are just really scarce in the first 2 episodes. We're going to mostly let them infight where possible. The Marines, if they're not targeting you, they'll usually target other stuff. So we'll let them do their job. We're going to deal with the lost souls that pop up right after you hit that switch, just so they're not wandering around. Chain gun's really good at that due to pain chances. Enemies with high pain chances have a more likely percentage to get in their stun animation whenever you hit them. And I think lost souls actually might have 100%. So enemies are grouping up still, so we're going to duck in here to get the key and also deal with the enemies here. And thankfully there's a nice convenient mega sphere right here. So it's just really handy to refill our health and armor to the max. Not ammo. I wish ammo would get maxed out. So as you can see, like even with me picking up rocket boxes everywhere, we are chewing through our ammo like candy. It's just ridiculous amounts of enemies in this level. Well, once we get the yellow key, this brings us to the last encounters. So there's going to be 3 waves after we hit the switch. We already have all the secrets, so we just need to get the kills. So there's going to be a Mancubus wave, there's going to be an Arachnotron wave, and there's going to be one miscellaneous wave at the very end. Thankfully, in later versions of UnMaking, these waves are tied to death triggers instead of time triggers, so it's a lot faster to get through them. We also need to get rid of these Marines because they do count as enemies, so we want to make sure that they die. So once we kill this Arachnotron wave, we have a spawn of both a Mother Demon and a Pain Elemental on opposite sides. So we're going to block the Mother Demon from showing up. So we just wait a little bit there. So all we have to do is kill the Pain Elemental. And that will give us the credit that we need to open the exit area. Like, that's just so much more efficient to kill only the Pain Elemental instead of dealing with the Mother Demon. So, Infinity Gauntlet right here. This is where we're going to use all our remaining cells. We're going to just deal with the Cyber Demons nice and safe. It's just way easier and way more efficient to kill them with that instead of going for the BFG and rocket strat that I do in Speed. But this was a little scary because I actually had less cells than normal, so I thought I was actually going to run out of ammo. And thankfully that did not happen. So shooting the chain gun right there at that little texture by the exit fall, that lowers the pillar so you can get on there easily and get credit for the secret. So thankfully we're like almost dead even for ammo. So this was a good level. We just had just enough to deal everything quickly. So we take the death exit, and that brings us into episode 3, which covers the remainder of this run. So we're just like barely halfway through the run, but this last episode is absolutely brutal. So, Do Not Wake Mother is another level where I've already maxed in the speed category. So you won't be seeing many changes here. We're going to see a little bit of changes in the fighting at the very end. But thankfully, otherwise, this is a pretty straightforward level where you just need to close off these walls. That stops the Mother Demons from hearing you when you shoot the pistol to activate these switches. And this is needed because if you activate a Mother Demon, it shows up in the last fight and beats the crap out of you, and you're not equipped to deal with it. So, you just kind of have to do it this way. We are also going to get 1 demon key here. So this being episode 3, there are 3 demon keys to pick up. And we will be able to grab the first of them here. This one used to be secret only, but you can actually get it through regular progression as well. So when you finish the last fight in this level in later patches, you can actually teleport back to this area, and the key actually spawns in this area if you didn't already pick it up. Unfortunately, I missed that jump. There's a hidden pack of cells right here that counts as a secret. As long as we didn't fall twice, we were okay. We'd have enough time to make sure both doors are closed before hitting the switch, because the doors are on a timer. So if you don't have all the doors closed when you need to do the pistol shots, and the Mother Demon hears you, and that can absolutely happen if one of the doors decides to open back up because you took too long. So we're going to jump to the secret hallway right here, this hidden ledge. So we're going to get this demon key early because it's just faster to get it now, because we want to have the Unmaker ready later on when we do the final fight. We'll pick up an Unmaker right as we do the last fight in this level. And just having the extra key now, it's more convenient because the increased fire rate is just so nice. One last switch to hit right here. It's important to note that aside from exiting this building, the little alcove you need to visit is always on the left, so you can always keep track of it that way, except for this last one, which is in the middle. So I want to conserve as many cells as possible, actually. So I tried to block some zombie men from showing up, and unfortunately failed horribly. I have not been having a good time with that. We don't want to use too many cells, so we're going to only deal with the immediate threats and then deal with the remaining enemies using the pistol. This is also where nightmare enemies start showing up. Nightmare enemies have the cool property of having the green shade, which is cool, but they also have double health, which makes them a pain in the butt to deal with. We came out of this with a few less cells than I'd like. I would normally like having 70 cells coming out of this level, but 62 was workable. So the route here for going nowhere fast is quite a bit different in this category. So we're going to take a shortcut through the barrel maze right here, because we want to do this in one cycle and get everything on the first pass. So we take a very specific route through the barrel maze, grab the rad suit, which protects us from the poison here, which has been fixed to where you will no longer have leaky rad suit issues, because the damage has been reduced to where that's no longer a problem. That's a bug with the original Doom stuff. So we picked up all the secrets. Getting through the maze in one cycle gets us the yellow skull key, which we need for an exit. I did take a death right there. Thankfully I had just saved, so it wasn't a big loss. But it was funny to get popped by the rocket. So we do this Cyber Demon is the only enemy in the level, but we do need to kill it. And we have just enough cells to make that happen. And we're on timers anyway, so the timer, it's roughly 25 seconds or so for the clock to start whenever you exit the starting area. And then once the timer runs out, you are teleported back. So we just barely managed to kill that cyber demon without running out of ammo. And then once the timer runs out, we teleport out. We have the red key. This secret now requires the red key in later versions of UnMaking, so we can activate this little stairway, get these 2 cells, and then the secret exit is now right here, which requires the yellow key. We can just go right into the secret exit. So this takes us to roll the dice, which is unfortunately my least favorite level in the WAD by far, and it's exactly what it says. So it is luck what you get. I am manipulating luck as best as I can by firing the pistol. The RNG, random number generator in this game, works on like an index table, like it is in PC Doom. So different things advance that table. Waiting is one of them. It advances every frame. Firing weapons like the pistol that have like randomish aim also advance the table. So we're just trying to manipulate certain results, and the results I want to get all these cells out of the first 2 switches here. So we have the plasma gun and the BFG and a whole bunch of cells. Now we need 3 random things to happen in this room, which is a pain in the butt. So the first thing we managed to get, I think, is the walls lowering. So this has the only 2 enemies that are already spawned onto the map when we start the level. We have a cyber demon on one side and a mother demon on the other. Now with the cells that I grabbed, we are equipped to take them out, but I want to save those cells for the next level. So I'm going to try and get them to infight. Unfortunately, I shot the cyber demon the first time there, so they didn't... when enemies are shot, they tend to attack you even if something else hits them, so... I wanted to reload that, and then I died the next time. And for whatever reason, that mother demon was deaf when I fired the pistol that time. I don't know what happened. There is like kind of like a sound flag for enemies that happens, and they can be deaf to your shots. So that's what happened there for some reason. That was the second thing I needed to happen. Teleporting onto the ledge to get the second demon key of the episode, which does count as a secret. That's like our only secret in the level. And then the final thing that we need to get is trying to open the exit up. So thankfully this happened. Getting the enemies to show up first is ideal because we can let them wear each other down while we're trying to open up the other things. So we're just trying to advance the RNG here. Try and get the exit doors open. And once that's open, we've got everything, we can just leave. So we take 200 cells out of this level, and we can use in Monuments to the Cement God, which is extremely handy because this would be a very painful level without these extra 200 cells. Because you're going to really start seeing a lot of nightmare enemies from this point forward, especially in this level. I accidentally skipped that armor, so things got a little more dangerous than I wanted. But with all those extra cells, we can just cut through everything with a 2-key unmaker, which is really, really handy because we don't even have a rocket launcher yet. Unless we got one from Roll the Dice, but it's a choice between taking a rocket launcher and taking cells, and the cells are more valuable. We just get a lot of chain gun use, just clearing out mobs. Coming up into this room, we try and get an Arachnotron to infight with everything else. So this is why after I pick up the rocket launcher here, you kind of see me standing. We're trying to have the Arachnotron at the far end of the room hit everything for us, and unfortunately they didn't really want to cooperate. Not a whole lot decided to infight, so we'll deal with that later. But in this area in the labyrinth, the floor transitions are triggered by barrels exploding. So we have a very specific route for just not missing barrels and just triggering everything as soon as possible. It works out pretty nicely, and thankfully the Lost Souls usually play nice with this route. They usually don't get in the way too badly. Sometimes they do wander off because we actually do need to take a secret in the previous island, so we're actually going to jump. We're going to get to this teleport early by jumping off this ledge while it's lowering and go back to the first island. So that allows us to get into this secret early. That's a funny secret because you can technically get lucky and do a line def skip there and get in there early, but there's no consistent way to do that, so we just kind of rely on being able to come back. And then while we have the invulnerability from the secret, we can let all of these enemies group up, and thankfully they can get pissed off at each other Raktrons are a really good source of damage against the Nightmare Hell Knights. So we just let them group up and deal with them. And then once they're pretty weak, we can deal with whatever's left. And I see one Lost Soul was left around, but he came by. He thankfully followed me back. So once we dealt with all them, the wall's lower, we can get to the portals normally. So this is a lot of weird geometry. We're going to take very specific routes to avoid getting stuck on walls. This also has a really nice skip. There is a pain elemental that normally spawns once we hit the next switch coming up, but we can block it using a mancubus. So I'm going to clear this area ahead of time, and we're going to, once we hit this switch, we're going to run onto the ledge right here. So hitting that switch right there across from the Baron would normally spawn the pain elemental, but the mancubus was already in the way, so don't have to deal with that, which saves a lot of grief. So a bunch of enemies spawn down here. We could technically deal with them later, but it's risky, because if there are still enemies when we activate a script later, then they kind of stop it from activating properly. So we come down here, get our last key. We pray for some infighting that happened in the upper area, and thankfully, enemies got pissed off at each other, and the Mancubus was already dead, so the rocket launcher coming in clutch right here to just be able to just eliminate the remaining Cacos. Several Lost Souls spawn right here, so we just get on the ledge so we don't get double teamed. And then there's one more secret right here where we're going to turn auto run off and just fall off the ledge. It's a really easy one to miss because the ledge is actually quite small. I wasn't sure about my rocket count, so I picked up a few extra rockets right here. And I think that ended up being the right call. There's a couple of Raktrons that love to just snipe you out, and we don't want to deal with them. So this area is also now based on enemies killed instead of time. So we're just going to trigger everything as soon as possible. And we have plenty of cells that show up in this area, so we're going to be able to just use the Unmaker for the rest of the level. So block one Cacodemon from showing up. Deal with the other Nightmare Cacodemons. They're pretty hard to see, but enemies always spawn from consistent locations. So you just kind of feel it out. And then we're going to block one Nightmare Mancubus from showing up and deal with the other one that's on the other side. And we take the remaining cells and leave. So that would pretty nicely, thankfully. Unfortunately, this level went a little bit less nice in this run. So we deal with the Nightmare Marines early on because they love to wander around and get lost, and then I have to come out of the exit area, which is pretty far away, and deal with them later. Like, I would love for them to do some infighting to save myself some work, but it's not worth it with how often they get lost. So we do the switch puzzles. The switch puzzles are always the same, so you can just follow the order that I do in both this video and in the speed category. There are multiple triggers for enemy spawns here, so just be very wary of enemies spawning in and making sure they don't get lost. This next secret's actually a little bit interesting. So you're normally supposed to hit a switch that'll let you raise this elevator all the way to the top, but if you hit this switch right here, you hit that switch too early while the elevator is still rising, then the elevator never rises all the way to the top, and you get soft blocked out of that secret. So I waited a little bit just to make sure that doesn't happen. So we got a few enemy waves here. The rockets, thankfully, very, very good for dealing with the clumps, and also the couple of Nightmare Marines are just nice for distracting the Erectrons. And then we deal with the other waves that spawned. So puzzle number 2. It's just 1, 2, 1. You don't have to push the switches in a specific order, you just need the correct number of pushes. So we're going to get the red key right here, deal with a few enemies, deal with this Cacodemon that spawns in at some point that we don't want wandering off. So we need to hit a secret switch that's on the left. I actually do this in speed as well, but we're going to have to go there later. We still need to clear out enemies and get this other secret. This secret's a little scary because you can get pushed off the ledge right here by enemy fire, and if you fall off the ledge, you instantly die. So it's a little scary. There's also just a lot to keep track of. We pick up cells where we can. We save a few cells in this area. going past a certain point on this walkway makes a whole bunch of other enemies spawn. So we're going to deal with the immediate threats of the Mancubus, a couple of crack demons, and an Arachnotron. And then 3 Lost Souls spawn way off in the distance around that wall that you can see. So I stand right here at this point in the stairs to make sure they spawn and make sure all 3 of them die. Because otherwise, they get very lost in the very, very wide boundaries of this area. And tracking them down is basically impossible. So we want to make sure we don't cross the stairs there, because a pain elemental will spawn in this room if you go too far. But after we kill that Baron, or is it a Hell Knight? I think it's a Hell Knight. Hitting the switch, we go back to open up the teleporter that we opened up earlier. And that takes us to the switch that activates the Soul Sphere secret and a shortcut to the yellow key, which is nice. Now, unfortunately, I did not get 100% kills on my first pass right here. This is why I saved earlier, because it's always scary. So I have 98% kills, so I quickly reload my save that I'd made right before I entered the exit area. So I have to wonder, like, what did I miss? And it turns out, the other thing that I was missing is right here beyond the blue door. This Marine somehow wandered in. So I think if I do future improvements, I'm going to check that. But I grabbed the extra cells over there while I'm over there and made my way back to the exit. And unfortunately, this is one of the major time losses. This cost about 40 seconds to deal with. Because you have to sit through the results screen, reload, and it's a long load because you're loading out of Prismatigoria. And then you have to go back and deal with everything and sit through everything. So that was unfortunately pretty bad. Into Prismatigoria, you'd think this would be a really, really long level in this category because it's already normally pretty long. But thankfully, similar to the speed category, this one actually goes by pretty quick. We actually don't have to do too many extra things here. We just have to make sure we get the secret in each sector. So there's 6 sectors that we need to visit, and each of them has a secret. So that's the main thing. We're going to go to the Starburst room first. We're going to pick up the rocket launcher. This starts the script for what this room normally is, which is a bunch of Nightmare Barons or Nightmare Hell Knights. We go get the secret rockets here. It's just Barons. Okay, so it's just Barons. So after we get that, starting the script opens this secret passage with the Trans Rites Shrine. Shoutouts to Squibba, shoutouts to Squibba for putting that there, and shoutouts to Trans Rites in general, because those are important. Anyways, once you hit that switch in the shrine, that actually stops any other scripts from happening in this area, and that means we don't have to kill anything else or return to this room. So it's nice that that switch is useful in both categories. So here in the I don't know what to call this room. We'll just call it the circle room. We get rid of the Nightmare Arachnotrons early on because they can cause some infighting, but they also like to just cause trouble. So we deal with all of them first so we're not getting sniped. And then there are 4 pinkies that spawn in this area. So I had to make sure they're all nice and dead because they love to wander around. Enemies in this area love to wander around. And it's very difficult to see them because of the textures being applied. We also need to make sure we pick up enough shotgun ammo. It's very easy to run out of shells in this area. And it's still by far the most efficient thing to use to kill everything. But we kill stuff along the way. We make sure we get the backpack down here. Because that counts as our secret, touching that sector with the backpack. And then we do the remaining cleanup as we're making the second pass. I've very, very carefully listened, because this is one of the rooms where it's very easy to miss an enemy. So I fire in specific places and listen for grunts or groans. Which is why I'm glad I got that pinky that was right there. So there's 3 pinkies on this last ledge. Alright, so that's the first half down. Now, thankfully, we can grab this Mega Armor. We would normally save this Mega Armor and Speed, but we can just grab it now, because we're not going to do the big skip in the next level. We're actually going to do the Canyon next, because we have a 2-key Unmaker right now. This actually makes this fight with the Nightmare Cyber Demon very consistent. And there's a bunch of cells in this area that we're going to take and use in the remainder of the level. So it's just really nice to have. So we made sure to also pick up the hidden soul sphere that was behind us when we started this area, because that's the secret. Once we deal with the Nightmare Cyber, we grabbed all the cell packs, so we're topped off, and then we do the Red Chasm next. I like this, but I unfortunately did not play this area well. There's thankfully not too much stuff that you need to kill. There are a bunch of Mancubi on the upper ledges that are sniping at you the whole time, but thankfully when you finish this room, a Crusher comes down and kills all of them, so we don't need to actually kill the Mancubi ourselves. We just need to get rid of the Pinkies and the Imps that are roaming around. So this area is mostly just making sure we don't miss the stuff as we're walking up and triggering all of the needed scripts to lower the ledges, because picking up the invisibilities is what makes ledges lower. That fall was really bad, unfortunately. That was, I don't know, probably 15 seconds right there. If you haven't played Doom stuff, movement, especially in 64, is very slippery. And once you leave a ledge and you're in the air, you have no air control. You are 100% locked to whatever angle and speed you were running at. So it's easy to, unfortunately, do something like that. So, at that point, I was like, let's just take it easy. So just exercise a little bit of caution right there, just so I don't fall off again and lose more time. So, otherwise, this area went fine enough. The Crusher script gets started, and the only other sector that we have to visit is the Black Forest right here. And we did get the secret in the previous area, which was the rad suit that was hidden behind a ledge. So it takes about a little over a minute for all of the enemies to spawn here, and the exit to open up. That invulnerability that was hidden inside the tree, that's our last secret for the level, and we're going to save that because we want to carry that into the final fight. The last fight of this level is a bunch of Nightmare Pain Elementals, and if you've seen my speed category run, we would be doing a bunch of scary strats at the BFG. Thankfully, since we have a 2-key Unmaker, that is a much, much more safe way of dealing with them. Since the power is rapid enough and efficient enough to where we can dump all of our cells into the enemies, destroy the pain elementals, and clean up any lost souls that they leave behind. And there are tons of cells in the last room, so we have no shortage of ammo. Oh, excuse me. So we just make sure that everything's dead here. There's a couple of Marines that spawn. We just make sure nothing's wandering around, because I have had enemies get stuck in this room, and I had to come back and get them. So once we grab the invulnerability, we trigger the script here by grabbing one of the soul spheres. I actually stood a little too far forward, so I didn't block the panel from behind me. So that would have been nice to not have to deal with. But the invulnerability is really nice, not just because it protects you, but because it also acts as a light visor here. The silhouettes of the panel elementals are much, much easier to see while you have the invulnerability active. So it's just really nice to be able to just clear out as many as we can. And then since we know the panel elementals generally like to follow you to your current position, we can use that to our advantage and make them come between certain pillars so that they all just come up into our line of sight. So we killed all the panel elementals. I thought I had all the lost souls down, so I went and picked up the ammo, but knowing my luck, I knew something was going to happen, and I did actually hear a lost soul as I was about to exit. Like, it was just, like, barely charging. So, thankfully, I was able to reload and then make sure I got that kill there. And I was hoping that was the only thing I was missing. And, thankfully, that was the only thing I was missing, so we were able to get it out of here and go to Prismatagoria next. Or, Flotsam and the Astral Sea next. We finished Prismatagoria. Now, in terms of routing, this was one of the most difficult to route, because this is a huge level, and we normally skip basically this entire level in speed. But we can't do that here because there's a lot of places that have enemies already spawned, and there are a ton of secrets on this map. It's like 13 or 14 secrets. So the real trick here was figuring out what areas do I absolutely need to go to, and how many enemies can I stop from showing up, because there are a lot of places in this level where we need to, if you step over a line def, enemies spawn in. So the trick was, how few of these line defs can I step over? So we also need to get all these secrets. So we activated the first switch towards the demon key puzzle. There's 3 of those. We fired way off in the distance where we found the plasma area. We hit another switch from where that Unmaker was, and then we'll get the 3rd on the way back. Yeah, those switches are critical because we need to get the 3rd Unmaker key. Even if... I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let's just say we need to get the Unmaker key, and we'll leave it at that, because it's tied to secret anyways. This sequence, though, there are going to be 10 volleys of rockets that shoot out of the middle, so we need to wait that out. While that's happening, a bunch of Mancubi and Imps like to spawn, and there are several Lost Souls that spawned earlier that will rise up to the top of the tower to try and attack us, but since we're in a pretty safe spot in terms of terrain, they won't be able to get to us, so we can deal with them safety from here. Now, when we get to the final wave, normally a bunch of extra Mancubi spawn in. So the trick here is to weaken these Mancubi, and then once the final wave is supposed to spawn, the weakened Mancubi will block them, and we can kill the weakened Mancubi off. So it's just a lot easier that way. So we just deal with all of that while we're waiting for all these rocket waves to spawn. So we wait for the 3 fast waves of rockets, because we know those are the last 3. And after that, we're gonna spawn another. We're gonna block another mud demons from spawning in. So we're gonna grab this invulnerability. We're going to stand to the left of the green torch here. We're gonna stand at a very specific spot, and then we block a mother demon from show up, and quickly deal with all of the pain elementals before they overwhelm us. We've already blocked all of the Mancubi that would show up, so that means we can use the rockets to quickly bop the rest of them and get out of here quickly. And it just saves so much effort that way. To not have to deal with like an extra, 16 Mancubi? Like, it's just nice. And it also saves rockets for later. So we're going to activate the last part of the demon key puzzle here. We're going to hit this hidden switch that's right here. The switches can be hit only by hit scan weapons, and interestingly, the Unmaker, the lasers are just an effect, like a graphical effect. The Unmaker is actually a hit scan weapon, so it functions like a very powerful chain gun. So, just in case you didn't know. So, now we have a 3-key Unmaker. The fire rate is the same, but now we have 3 lasers instead of 2, which is really, really good for DPS, but also really good at chewing up all of my cell ammo. So we have to be very careful in how we shoot this thing off. So we're going to have a bit of a weird route change that I did recently because I was sick of missing enemies in previous runs of this. So we're going to go to the graveyard first after killing all of them. The graveyard, if you jump into one of the graves, you normally end up getting in a fight. We don't need to do that. We just need to hit the secret switch, and then we can pick up the hidden soul sphere and step on the ledge with the hidden invisibility, and that saves us a bunch of work right there, just picking up those 2 secrets. The library was definitely the most difficult part to route right here. We take a very specific route to get all of the secrets and also stop as many enemies from spawning in, because if you cross certain line depths or pick up certain items, more enemies spawn in. So this is like the bare minimum route that I could find, while still being efficient, making sure we didn't miss anything. Because there are some spawns that we're just going to have to trigger. So we're going to activate this little ledge right here that gives us access to the secret that's on the other side once we get to the other side here. We get the cell secret right here. Be very careful in this area to make sure we don't pick up items. Several health potions will cause enemies to spawn in, so we just very carefully peek around them. And we make sure we get the shotgunner in the corner right there because he won't get aggroed normally. So once we pick up that blue key, a whole bunch of stuff spawns in, so we're going to quickly get rid of everything that spawns in, because especially the Cacodemons, they love to activate several line deaths in the labyrinth that will actually cause them to teleport to different parts of the labyrinth. We don't want that happening because it's difficult to deal with them. We're also going to get the remaining secrets from here. And once we do that, we're going to take the second secret out, which is actually really useful and why we save it for last. So the secret coming up teleports us back to the starting area, which is where a Cyber Demon is. But this allows us to actually just telefrag the Cyber Demon, and we don't have to deal with it. So we pick up the cells right after that, and then we can leave this area after hitting the switches. It's important to pick up the cell packs before you hit the switches, because the moment you hit those switches, the cell packs actually disappear, which is something I learned somewhat recently. So you want those 200 cells. So after doing all of that, a bunch of Nightmare Lost Souls appear in the main room right here. And this is the reason we did the graveyard first and killed everything in that area. Because the moment they hear something, they're going to start moving around. And they love to get lost. I don't like them getting lost. So that is why we did the graveyard first and then the library. So that we wouldn't aggro them until we came back and they were in very consistent positions. So now we're going to sweep the main room just to make sure nothing gets lost here. Because I've had it happen to where they just really do not want to cooperate. Like, I would rather take, like, the 10 or 15 second time loss here, deal with the lost souls, and not have a 3-minute time loss later. So we're roughly halfway through the level right now. Like I said, this is a big level. One of the most difficult to route. That zombie man can walk around, so we just kind of have to just pay attention to him. We do deal with a hidden panel mantle that spawns in. But we don't want him causing trouble, so we just deal with him now. So we have plenty of rockets that we're not really going to use otherwise for the rest of this episode, so now's a good time to use the rockets and save a little bit on cells when it'll be a little bit more efficient. Because there are some spots where we want to use the cells. So we go to the other side of this area now. This area requires the blue keys, which is why we saved this for last. Yeah, some of the changes made to this map in 2.8 and beyond are a little strange. It does cut down on the symmetry, but it also is really weird that that area behind the second set of blue key doors all connects together, even though you wouldn't be normally going that way. So we got another time script coming up. Activating that switch makes all these lifts appear. So this is one of the few times we'll actually use the BFG right here, just because the damage output is really good with the area of effect used in the cone and the tracers. So again, you fire the ball detonates, the tracers shoot out from Doomai's current position at the angle you fired the ball at. So it's really good at just dealing with all those enemies in that area. And we also just deal with all the other stuff that's already spawned in the room while we're waiting for these walls to come down. The BFG doing a good bit of cleanup here. And then I decided to finish off with rockets and save a few cells for the next level, because the next level has a bunch of fighting and I don't want to be dry on cells going into it. So we get this last secret right here with the invulnerability that's behind a fake wall. We're going to actually block a Arachnotron right here. If you manage to run towards this soul sphere, you block an Arachnotron from showing up. Saved a little bit of work. And the rest here is just cleanup. Triple Unmaker, just decimating these Barons. The Barons have 1,000 health, so they're generally pretty tanky, among the most tanky enemies in the game, and having enough cells just allows you to completely shred them. So 4 Cacodemons are going to spawn. We'll deal with them in a second. We just need to get up to the red key right here and get these cell packs. And then a Nightmare Cacodemon spawns in front of us, so we'll deal with that, as well as 2 Nightmare Mancubi and 2 Nightmare Arachnotrons. We save going into the exit area now that we have the red key so we don't trigger the trap. It was very, very good overall. Like, to do this in about 9 minutes in game time is pretty good. And I didn't miss any enemies. So that was a huge, huge, huge relief. So how many demons can dance? I am sorry for everyone's eardrums right here. Firing the Unmaker in this level is going to be very, very loud. So please turn the sound down as needed. But we're going to block enemies from showing up for a bit. A certain number of enemies will try and spawn in. We're going to block several from showing up. And then we can rocket out the remaining pinkies. So there's 3 waves that are all tied to killing everything. And then the 4th wave is a time-based script. So this is why we want Unmaker ammo. Because having cells is way more efficient for dealing with everything than using the BFG or using rockets. Like, rockets, you can save some ammo here and there using rockets, but in general, it's very slow to use rockets. So this is why entering with cell ammo is just a huge help. So we'll save a few cells here and there, but we'll snipe off the remaining enemies. We also need to make sure we're picking up all the cells. Several cell pickups show up here and there. And this is where the Hell Knights start showing up. And Hell Knights only have half the HP of Baron. They only have 500. But so many Hell Knights spawn in that it's very easy to get blocked from here on out. So it's also very easy to run out of cell ammo, and then you're stuck in the middle of a fight with nothing to work with, so you gotta be very careful with the movement. So a bunch of cells are around each little tower area, so we make sure we take a specific movement path to pick all of those up and kind of lure enemy fireballs away from your current position so that you're not accidentally running into them. And once we've dealt with all the stuff here, the final switch shows up, and this is the only time-based script now. This is also the most intense one to get through because it's ridiculous amounts of enemies, and there are also several Arachnotrons on the towers, and we need to get rid of them ASAP. We also need to pick up all these large cell packs that are on the ground that are very easy to miss amidst all the chaos. So we just kind of take a very specific route along the outside, pray that a lot of stuff just gets blocked by other enemies, and then we just kind of skirt around the outside until the script is almost done. We do the remaining cleanup. Like, even with a triple Unmaker, it's very possible to die in this level, and I've had that happen. So once we finish getting all the big cell packs, there's 3 between every tower area, we can just go ahead and burn all of our cells, because we'll get a full refill in the next level. So we just finish burning all of our cells, take care of everything here. We want to be close up by enemies where possible, because the way the lasers track when it's triple Unmaker, they kind of spread out, so it's easy to miss things at a distance if you're not close by. We just take the remaining power-ups, save just to make sure we got everything, and we take the exit out, and thankfully we got our 100%, so it was a nice, good level. Now, and remember the Helimo here. In the speed category, there is a big skip that we do that skips the entire level and saves about 7 minutes. We technically can do this skip in max as well, and still get 100%. There is a problem with that, though. If we take the super secret skip, there is normally a death exit out of this level, and taking the super secret prevents you from getting the invulnerability that would let you do the skip for the death exit. And you must be thinking, well, you saved 7 minutes, that must be worth it, right? As far as I can tell, no, it's actually not, because in 2 levels we have the Void Dreams of Huge Guts. It is the biggest and longest level in this WAD, and that level, doing it from basically a pistol start, you have to get weapons in very, very inconveniently placed areas and not a lot of ammo to work with, and there are tons of enemies all around, to the point where I firmly believe that skipping the death exit by wading through the waves here, wading through the entire 9-minute level, and taking the invulnerability to skip the death exit still saves time over doing any kind of pistol start in Void Dreams. Like, it's complicated. If you want to see how to do the secret skip in this level, you can watch my Watch Me Die speed video, which is like a 120 and some change. But otherwise, since this is the max category, and we want to keep all of our equipment by skipping the death exit, we're going to play the entire 9-minute level out. So because of that, we do have to wade through all the waves, and the only thing I'm going to really say is that we want to make sure enemies don't get pushed all the way out of bounds. Like, this level is a huge level out in the distance, and it's very easy, especially in the next wave, the Cacodemons, for them to get pushed all the way out, and they're not going to be able to, like, get back to the island in time. So it's very easy to miss them and miss your 100% kills. So I wait where I can for enemies to come closer so I can deal with them more efficiently. The invulnerability spawns on the second to last wave, and then on the final wave, which is the 2 mother demons, we will pick up the invulnerability near the end and skip the death exit with that. Otherwise, all of the waves here are time-based scripts. I'm just going to shut up for the next, like, 5 or 6 minutes, go get a drink, and I will be right back, and y'all can enjoy some of the carnage while you let everything unfold. Alright, y'all. I am back while we're finishing the cleanup here. So this is the second to last wave with the Arachnotrons and the Nightmare Imps. We want to just make sure everything's taken care of before the last wave spawns, which is 2 Mother Demons. We want to save that invulnerability for after we've... about when we're ready to leave. So I make sure I'm stocked up on ammo. I make sure I have full rockets, full cells, everything I need here. Because that invulnerability, if you do the super secret shortcut, that unfortunately disappears, which is why we can't do that. And it's by the end anyway, so it wouldn't save much time if we could do that way. But yeah, we just deal with the 2 Mother Demons. We go grab the invulnerability that's right here, deal with the other Mother Demon that's coming in. So we have enough time to quickly grab the Megasphere to fill our health up, get the remaining cells to refill us to stock, and then this right here, jump right down the hole and do the invulnerability. We skip the death exit. So that allows us to keep all of our equipment going into the remainder of the levels, which makes Void Dreams so much better. But first we have to do Raise the Glass right here, which is kind of like a nice chill intermission level. There is actually one secret we need to get here. So none of the Marines here are active. They don't count as secrets, so we just have to get the backpack right there just from hitting the switch at the back of that tower. Unfortunately, this was like a really, really silly time loss right here. You normally need to hit all 6 switches to reach the Soul Sphere, which triggers the script. You can do it in 4, but I just could not get myself to jump into into the center right there. So that's a funny way to lose time. Not too many seconds, but it's just silly. Okay, so this is the big level right here, the Void Dreams of Huge Chest. This was actually one of the first things I routed for this category because I was just like, if I can't do this, then doing everything else is not going to be worth it. So this is by far the largest level. It is the longest level. Should be the longest level in this category. And we have so much ground to cover in terms of secrets, in terms of things to kill, in terms of places to visit. So the basic breakdown for this in this category is that we need to pick up all 6 keys. There's 2 of each color, and one security key and 1 skull key of each color. So we need to pick up all 6 keys in order to get access to one of the secrets, which means we have to do a lot of walking around, and figuring out how to do that was very, very difficult. So we're going to go to the right first, because not only do we need to pick up some keys, but some of the areas are only accessible once you pick up certain keys. So we go to this area first. It just works out better that way. We just have very, very specific use of rockets and cells here. So as you can tell, enemies keep spawning in, and I've done my best to figure out what's the minimum number of enemies I can deal with while still getting 100% kills here. Because there are just tons and tons of enemy triggers that I'm intentionally avoiding. But we'll deal with that Electron on the way back. But first we're going to get this blue skull key right here. There is one secret here that we need to get. There is a hidden Unmaker. And we normally would be grabbing that in speed category anyways. It's just nice to have the cells anyways. So like I said, cells and rockets are routed very, very specifically for this level. So I know exactly when to use what. Because there's a lot of flying enemies that love to wander off. So anything that's usually like very far away and doesn't come towards you, that's what we're going to use our cells on with the Unmaker. And we know exactly where our ammo refills are. Like there's a huge cell pack right here. So we make sure we burn enough energy right there so that we're not having like wasted cells. Because picking up a giant cell pack when you're already at 570 is only going to give you 30 instead of 100. And you don't want that happening. So this is a big sniping point right here. There's 3 Arachnotrons all the way on the other side to where we need to go. There's also just a whole bunch of other enemies in this area. There's 2 other Arachnotrons that are way off in the distance. Like, the rendering distance is actually so... They're off so far in the distance, the renderer cannot actually draw them unless you're, like, towards the edge of this ledge. So it might seem like I'm firing into the void. Don't worry, we're taking care of enemies. So we need to make several passes in this area, so make sure everything's nice and dead. We're going to get on this ledge from the edge and then make 2 separate jumps to get to the Mega Armor right there. That's just a lot easier than dropping straight off. You can do it by dropping straight off that top ledge, but I've missed it too many times and it's a big trip to get back. So it's not worth it for me. Alright, so now we're going to go for the key that's up there. It should be the yellow skull key if I remember right. Or it might be the yellow security key. Point is, we're just going to be grabbing everything. We trigger some enemies, pick up some rockets. We deal with a Cacodemon and 2 Nightmare Lost Souls. And then we deal with the imps that are right here. There is one more Pain Elemental that spawns once we grab this key. It is the yellow skull key. So once we get that, we make sure that we're ready, because we don't want Lost Souls or Cacodemons running off in this level. That's the biggest danger. Especially since coming back to this area is a very, very long and painful trek from the exit area. A few Nightmare Pinkies also show up. They're not even pink anymore. Should I call them greenies? It makes me think of like vegetables. But we deal with all of them. There's a few enemies that show up here. We don't need to go this way yet. But what we're going to actually do is go back this way. We have to get the first demon key. We don't need the demon keys specifically for equipment reasons because we kept all 3 of them from skipping the death exit. But they are tied to secrets, so we do have to pick them up. And unfortunately, this is the worst jump by far. I have to do this jump in speed as well. It's a very, very picky angle and position at max speed to make this first jump here. So it takes quite a few tries, unfortunately. And then after we do that, once we manage to make it, now we have to make a second jump, which is just as hard. And I noticed I wasn't quite on the very edge of the ledge, so we backed up and fixed our position a bit. So thankfully we got it after not too much more trouble. So we get this secret here. We take the passage back to the central area. We just fill up on health. So after we did all of that, one area does open up back here once we get the yellow skull key. And we can access this little extra area. So going up this way leads to more secrets and just, unfortunately, you have to deal with more enemies. But there's no getting around that. Unless we find a really good line def skip that would skip these guys from spawning, there's no getting around that because we do need to come to this area for secrets. So we get good use out of our rockets here, because enemies are clumped up pretty good. And then we switch to UnMaker once we get into the little canal here, because we want to still save as much health and such as possible. So it's easier to just UnMaker them out and get out of the pit as soon as we deal with the pinkies. So we get a nice little cell refill coming up right here. There's also 2 cacodemons that are off in the distance that start following me at some point. So we want to make sure we deal with them soon. Like, wherever convenient. Now, I actually got really lucky here because I actually missed something earlier on. And I was lucky enough to see, if you can see on the right, there's actually 2 enemies infighting. They've managed to somehow get infight. And I got extremely lucky that all of them died from all that chaos. So, was able to get rid of all of them and not have an enemy wander off. So going back to this starting area, now there's a rad suit and there's also a new passage down here. So this is the second demon key. So that's also tied to a secret here. So we need to get a little bit more stuff in this area. I'm glad that we come to this part of the map from where we do, because that skips a whole bunch of enemies from spawning in the area below us. So after we pick up the yellow key card, we can go get this secret that's falling down this hole. So turn auto run off, just make sure I don't walk too far. So thankfully, once we deal with all that, we are in a good position to deal with all these cacodemons that spawned over here. We will go to this area later, because this is where the exit is, but we still need to pick up 2 more key cards in order to access the last secret for the level. So we're going to do that right now. Be very careful not to go towards those rockets. They look very appetizing, but they cause a whole bunch of enemies to spawn. We don't want that. So this is a bit of a weird route because enemies spawn in really weird ways here. So just to make sure nothing's going to get lost, I go down the stairs every once in a while to make sure lost souls and cacodemons are in the correct spots. So going past a certain point here makes more lost souls spawn. So once we deal with them, we're going to jump to this hidden secret right here with the mega armor. Deal with the lost souls that spawned in here. And then we can also deal with the remaining lost souls that are in this lava canal. So picking up the soul sphere, there's a secret sector around that. And then we can start climbing to the top of this tower. We're going to go left. We're going to be very careful coming up to not move too far on the right. There is a line def that spawns a whole bunch of extra enemies if we go too far past this rocket box. So we're just going to carefully nudge and make sure we're not going too far there. So just a few soldiers in this corridor right here. I was thankful that I recognized an enemy was there, so I didn't blow myself up in the face. So once we reach this point, more lost souls show up again. So we're going to spawn a whole bunch of other enemies, and we're going to snipe them out with the remaining cells that we have. It's just a good point right here. And one lost soul loves to get stuck, so we're going to walk back down, make another pass through the towers here, and this one likes to be right here. Usually he's like in the middle of rising up when I get to this point, so it was a little lucky that he was actually a little higher than normal. I probably don't need those rockets because we're not really using many rockets at this point, but I guess I used them on the last level for a little bit, so I guess it doesn't hurt to pick them up. So we're going to pick up this blue keycard here. Picking up this blue keycard in particular actually does activate a door that allows us to get to the next area. So that's why we do this part first. So, pick up the soul spheres for just a little bit of extra safety here. And thankfully, this is a pretty uneventful part. We're just going to pick up a cell pack that's right here. Pick up the last key, and then there are 2 pain elementals that spawn that we can deal with pretty quickly. We just want to make sure that all of them are dead as well. Like I said, lost souls still count towards kills, so we need to make sure they're all dead. So we're going to take a very specific route to get back to the main central area. So we have all 6 keys now. All the torches are lit, which means we can get access to the last demon key, and that is the final secret in the level. So all that's left to do is to do the final fight and leave. And with the 3 key unmaker, it's a little bit easier. So in the speed category, I would normally only have a 2 key unmaker. But 3 key makes it quite a bit easier here. I do need to make sure I'm not missing cell packs on the ground. There's just enough cells to get through this area and have enough for the next level. So have to be careful where I'm aiming. So there's a whole bunch of Nightmare Hell Knights around trying to knock me off, and there's also just 2 Nightmare Cyber Demons trying to make life miserable because of how fast they shoot their rockets. So we deal with the Nightmare Cyber Demons ASAP. I unfortunately missed the invulnerability sphere right there, and I was a little scared because I'm like, oh no, I'm at risk of getting sniped by a rocket. But thankfully we were able to get back before it was a problem. Nice punch right there. Alright, so we deal with the other Nightmare Cyber Demon here. It's lucky if you can get his rockets to fire on the Hell Knights and deal a little extra damage. But it is luck-based, so I don't worry too much about it. So all that's left in this last elevator sequence right here is making sure all the Hell Knights are dead, and we've got all of the souls picked up. Once everything's nice and gone, we make sure we pick up all the cells here. I save just in case I have to come back out. I would hope that wouldn't have to happen because it's like 45 seconds to leave this area. But thankfully, went through that nice and smooth. Doing that in 1120 is perfectly acceptable with how long that level is. So this is pretty much the home stretch at this point because this level is basically an auto-scroller. And yet I'm still going to lose time in a very funny way, as we'll see later. But this is basically an auto-scroller. There are no secrets in this level anymore as of 2.8. So playing on version 2.10, we don't have to worry about secrets. We just need to make sure we get all of the kills. So, but we cannot return to areas. So I need to make sure everything is dead before we leave each individual part. So this is one of the scary ones to get all the kills in. It actually took me a while to figure out where some things would spawn. So the gimmick of this level is, as you go through things, everything gets covered in darkness, and the darkness is a damaging sector. So the intended way is to figure your way out and make your way through before darkness consumes you, which is not a problem in a speedrun because you know exactly how long you're going to have. But to do it in max is a little bit weird because several enemies spawn in the darkness, and we need to make sure we pick all of them up. So we're actually going to wait here for just a little bit, and a Pinky spawns right below us. So we make sure that he dies. And there's going to be 2 other enemy waves that spawn in. So we're just going to get the yellow key. Going to clear out a few enemies, and then we'll deal with what's left for spawns. So the next bit of darkness is going to have 3 Nightmare Lost Souls. And we deal with the 3. We deal with the Pinkies that are in this room right here, and then a Nightmare Cacodemon is going to show up right here, now that enough time's passed. So once he's dead, that's when we can leave. And we can start this script right here. So picking up the Megasphere starts that script. So we're going to get a hidden BFG. This used to be a secret, and no longer is a secret, thankfully. But extra cells are nice. So we're going to go over to this little ruins area first. There's a few enemies do spawn now, and we can just deal with them now and make sure they don't get lost. The time between waves is pretty lenient here, so I just kind of conserve my cells by using shotgun. But we do make sure 1 Cacodemon dies here, because there's the 2 Nightmare Imps and 1 Cacodemon that spawn from there. And once they're done, that means no more enemies will spawn from that section of the map. Thankfully, the Arachnotrons fire rapidly enough to where they're pretty easy to take down. Unfortunately, the cacodemons, like, they do target you pretty often, but they also have a tendency to get pushed away by your lasers. So I try and let them move a little bit towards me just to make sure they're not gonna get stuck against a wall or something. Let's see, we know that one's there because we can see it, so we make sure he's dead. We also pick up a few spare rockets. We'll use these on the very last level just for a little bit. But yeah, otherwise this is really just a giant auto-scroller. Each section, there's no speeding it up. The darkness gimmick is a really cool one. And it is nice to end this run on kind of an easier level, especially after Void Dreams. So the next wave will be the last one, I think. We just make sure all of them are dead. I was actually getting low on cells, and I wanted to make sure I had enough for the next wave, or the next section. Unfortunately, I was just like, I'm just gonna burn through. Make sure there's nothing there. Now this is unfortunately where I lost time. So this last room, I didn't realize there actually was a line def somewhere that needs to be triggered for the script to start advancing. This has never been a problem in previous runs, so I'm waiting for a while for something to happen because the outside area is supposed to go dark after a while. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, this is taking a long time to start. And I start panicking on stream. I'm like, oh no, did I somehow soft lock? So I'm like running around, like wondering what is going on, trying to figure out what needs to happen. Like, I was like extremely scared that I had soft locked. So eventually I hit whatever line def there is. It might be actually by the door, but this was unfortunately losing like literally 25 seconds for no reason at the end of the run. So that's rather silly. Otherwise, this part's business is normal. Enemies are pretty good about coming into your space, so that you don't have to go track them down. Like, you have plenty of ammo at this point, so it's really just fending off the waves and just making sure that you kill everything by the time you exit this level. And thankfully, we're going to get a full health refill in the next level, so there's really no danger of dying here as long as you get rid of the big threats early. The only big threats are a Baron, a couple Hell Knights, and a Mancubus. And we're going to actually block the last Hell Knight, so he's not going to be a problem. The Nightmare Mancubus was hanging way back there, so I'm going to make sure he's dead. But not much else going on here. I just make sure I have enough to deal with the Baron early. Because Nightmare Barons have 2,000 health, being doubled from Baron's base health, so it's quite a lot. So these are the last enemies we're going to see. We just deal with the last Nightmare Pinkies. We're going to stand in a very specific spot right here. This is going to block a Hell Knight from showing up. And then, changed from earlier versions, once the lights go out, a timer does start, and you can just stand there. You don't have to trigger any line defs to activate the exit. It's such a cool way to end the level. Alright, and this brings us to the last level, Land in Darkness right here. So we're going to get a full health and cell refill. The beginning of this level is going to be very similar to my speed route. We're just going to kind of take a couple laps around the edge of the arena, using the candles as our reference. So we go strafe up, forward and right to start. So you could see the switch briefly for a second there once I'd made the turn. So we're going to make a couple of passes around, and then we're going to kill the required enemies for enemies to spawn in. Because there are only 4 required enemies to finish this map. A normal Cyber Demon, 2 Nightmare Cyber Demons, and the final Nightmare Mother Demon. Those are the only things that are required in order to finish the map. But we do need to kill all the Cyber Demons as soon as possible so we can start getting all of the remaining enemy waves to spawn in. And so this being max, we're going to have to kill everything. And you can see how large this space is and how dark it is. It is extremely difficult to keep track of everything here. And we're going to have to just fight for 6 minutes this way. This is a tough way to end this run because it's very easy to A, either get stuck and run out of ammo, or B, end up with like 99% kills on the result screen, and then you have to sit through the entire credit sequence before you can reload your save and figure out what you missed. So this is an extremely scary way to end the run. So this is why I have a bunch of rockets soften up enemies at first. Enemies will constantly be spawning in, and once we've done 2 full passes, then enough time has passed to where the first Cyber Demon spawns in. And we're actually gonna get the only secret in this level early on. We'll actually visit it several times because it's just that useful. So we snipe out what we can with our rockets. So the intended way to get the secret is actually to wait until a Mother Demon shows up and then boost you to where you get a height and you can shoot the switch. But the super shotgun right there has a little bit of variance in its pellets and its height. So you can activate that secret from way far away if you shoot very far away, if you get lucky. So we use that to trigger the secret. We enter that area once we heard the Cyber Demon spawn. And then once we exit that secret area, the Cyber Demon is usually right in front of us. So once we kill that Cyber Demon, the 2 Nightmare Cyber Demons spawn in. And we go to the right toward the switch and then to the corner to the right of that. And that's where we'll get the first Nightmare Cyber, which we just dealt with. Now, we re-enter the secret that way, and we turn left slightly, go forward and left, and we should be able to see the next Nightmare Cyber Demon. So it's pretty consistent, thankfully. Like, they spawn in consistent spots, it's just knowing where to go for them. So once we've dealt with this last Nightmare Cyber Demon, that's going to trigger all remaining waves of enemies to show up. And this is where things get scary, because there's going to be several Mother Demons that show up, which are already difficult enough to deal with. There's also going to be several Pain Elementals showing up that are going to spawn Lost Souls. And we're going to have to kill whatever they spawn as well. So ending the run on this is extremely dangerous because it's very, very possible to miss things or just flat out die because you get overwhelmed. So we're constantly scanning the arena for cell packs to make sure that I don't run out of stuff. And we're also looking for anything that's flying, because Cacodemons love to fly off, and if you see Lost Souls flying around, there's probably a Pain Elemental nearby that's spawning them, and we need to deal with them ASAP. So this is why I go towards the middle of the arena there, deal with them, and then do another pass on the outside just to make sure I don't get overwhelmed. Because if you stay in the middle, you're going to get hit by billions of projectiles, and you will likely die. There's also just so many cell packs that you need to pick up, so it's important to just deal with them where you can. Yeah, it's also a little bit weird. You have to stop, because it's several cell packs stacked on top of each other. And if you just run over as fast as possible, you're not going to get all of the cell packs. You're only going to pick up like maybe 2 or 3, instead of like the 5 or so that are there. So we're just still constantly scanning, waiting for enemies. I saw Lost Souls, so we had to make sure we get them. But I ran out of cells there. No, I didn't run out of cells. I was actually back at the secret. So flip the secret switch one last time, grab the remaining stuff, and we're gonna sit in the middle now, because now that's gonna make everybody converge towards the middle. It's gonna be easy to target everything. Okay, so that's why I go to the secret 3 times, because it really is worth just getting 3 invulnerabilities and just have a little bit of enemies damaging each other. Unfortunately, enemies in this area are specifically coded to not in-fight with each other. So we can only get enemies to damage each other, but they're not going to actively fight each other. This is unfortunate. It would make things a whole lot easier if that wasn't the case. So I could hear the final Nightmare Mother Demon show up. That really hurt a lot. I was getting scared. I was going to get an unlucky missile strike somewhere. The missiles love to stack on top of each other, and they do tons of damage. This is just such a brutal part right here, because the Nightmare Mother Demon having 10,000 HP is just so much work. So I'm on the wrong side of the arena, so I realize I need to start getting ammo again. And I pick up what I can, but I should have really gone to the middle to pick up more stuff. Like, I'm still scanning the area here just to make sure I didn't miss anything and also pick up other cell packs. So, at this point, I feel like I've got everything because I don't see anything else trying to charge towards me or firing any fireballs towards me, so this is where I take out the Nightmare Mother Demon. And that's the last enemy we need to kill because all of these die. And with that very, very loud scream, we very anxiously wait to get 100% kills. And guess what? We did. And that's the end of the run right there. So that is the Unmaking Watch Me Die Max in 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 32 seconds. This was a really, really fun category to route, especially after the changes were made in recent updates. So big shoutouts to Squibba again for making this WAD from the start, but also making a lot of changes that make this WAD a lot more speedrunner friendly and cutting out a lot of downtime. Anyways, that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed this commentary track, and I hope you play this WAD if you haven't already. But until then, I will see y'all next time. Thanks for watching and listening.